Alright everyone, now it's time for a less fortunate SCOTUS decision. This is regarding a case they decided not to take up. Specifically, it's about whether you have the right to film police. Because clearly you do. This is pretty obvious. Especially if you're on your own property, filming things. A lot of people have like surveillance cameras anyway, so it'll be filmed regardless. People will see a police interaction, they will begin filming. Now, in most cases, the police understand that that's allowed, and it's been iterated by their chief or commish or whatever, their commish, and so they don't do anything. The fact that there are a million people with smartphones out there means they're probably not able to stop it under most circumstances anyway, unless they've stopped someone at like 2 a.m. in a remote area. So nothing's done. But you've had cases where the cops refuse to allow people to film. They'll break their phones, they'll delete the material, they'll even assault or attempt to arrest people. They'll say, hey, if you continue to film, we'll arrest you. And they've even done this to people on their own property. So, you know, someone on the sidewalk out in front of your home, in front of your yard, is being arrested, you start filming, and then the cops start in on you. You're on your own property. You're clearly entitled to film things on your own property. The fact that they're in frame doesn't negate that fact. But then the cops attempt to arrest you or whatever. They attempt to invade your property or confiscate your phone. The Supreme Court should have taken up the case. Instead, it chose not to hear it because it's cut and dry. And this is something, by the way, on which left-wing groups tend more to be where my particular view is. If you support the police, this is my opinion as a libertarian. If you do back the blue, thin blue line, you should be arguing for the cops to make sure they're behaving in a respectful manner. Yes, they should be like Andy Griffith. I realize that's not necessarily possible in an inner city area, but you can solve that by ending the drug war and ending the war on guns, and by stopping leftoid wokeism and actually tackling real crime and begin ignoring the non-crime. For instance, I don't care if people jaywalk. If they get run over, just make it their own goddamn responsibility. If they're that stupid, if they're outside of the crosswalk, where they're not protected by the lights, take your life in your own hands. I don't care. If you choose to do heroin, you'll die, probably. Whatever. Who gives a shit? It's a lot cheaper to just offer basic rehab facilities than to throw them in prison anyway. And if you want to smoke weed, then, you know, you probably won't die, and who cares? If you were to stop that, you know, you would need half as many prisons in the country. That saves us taxpayer money. You'd need half as many cops, and they could actually focus on, like, rapists and murderers and stuff. The fact that there are cops out there that would act in such a manner and assault somebody, and which should be illegal as well. Yes, cops can break the law. Just because they have a badge on doesn't mean they're above the law. They're the law enforcers. They're supposed to know the books reasonably well. The problem is that when you have cops that act in an out-of-control manner, like the LAPD, when they were chasing after Dorner and they shot up several pickup trucks and didn't even settle with the families in the civil suits thereafter, and I think crippled one woman for life in the process. This doesn't help the general community work with the police. If you want to crack down on gangs, they're going to be in their own ethnic communities usually, certainly within their own socioeconomic communities, and the people around them are butt-fuck terrified anyway. They're not going to snitch anyone to the police. You know, oh yeah, they're cooking lots of meth down in that basement. I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't want the problem. Yeah, I know that they're planning to assassinate this politician, but I'm not going to go to the cops. I don't want to end up kneecapped or end up lynched on a telephone pole or something, so fuck it. And I don't care about the police or the politicians anyway, they would say. If you want to change that, you do need people to understand they have basic civil rights, basic civic supply. Law enforcement is not above the law, and law enforcement needs to understand this and be held accountable, because the plurality of cops do a good job and are reasonably good people and are trying to be noble. The problem is that you have a huge swath of the population that perceives them all as jackbooting pigs, because you have them enforcing bullshit, number one. Again, weed laws, jaywalking, shit like that. Oh my God. Oh, you put up this poster and we think that it might be hateful because the ADL said so. Maybe if you stop that, it would be less of a problem. Bullshit laws, and then acting in a bullshit manner. Again, it doesn't have to be a majority of cops. It can be just one dude on the fucking force. It makes absolutely no difference. The perception's there, and it'll also be used as propaganda by groups like Antifa. All cops are bastards. Oh, see, here's a carefully curated image of the one cop on the force that misbehaves, doing something depraved, like smoking crack with the addicts, or punching a pregnant woman, or whatever under the sun. Yeah, the other 90 cops on the force are perfectly fine and excoriate this kind of behavior, but they're all the same, trust us. Now, fucking pay your dues to the Karl Marx Association. Literally, things like this help leftoid propaganda more than anything else, and ensure that crooked cops stay on the force and don't face any repercussions for misbehavior. I wish they had taken up the case. I have a feeling that they did this because they were worried that the conservative bloc in the court would actually go in the other direction and find no right to film cops. And I'm thinking to myself, I personally think it'd be a 9-0 in favor of the ability to do so, especially if it's on your own fucking property. That's fairly obvious. Looking at the Constitution, I don't see anything where the state can prevent its own workers from being filmed in public areas. That doesn't seem to be a right that's given to the federal government. Maybe you can argue it for the states under the 10th, but I would think certainly the First Amendment applies. I would think certainly the basic rights of man and common law that the Constitution is partially derived of would at least be mentioned. Everyone these days carries a smartphone. Even I have to carry a fucking smartphone, which I don't even like. The fact is that if something happens, something big happens in public, all of a sudden a crowd of people is getting 100 different angles of it. By the way, the ability to film, it helps in these legal cases. If the cops aren't doing anything wrong, wouldn't they want like 5 angles of them not doing something wrong so that they can be exonerated more easily? No, instead they punch the dude holding the camera. That's really going to go over well, by the way, in a court. Eventually this case, or a case like this, of course, will be heard, and it'll be cut and dry. It'll be obvious. Yeah, of course you have the right to film the fucking cops. They're public workers in a public place. Maybe you're even on your own fucking property at the time. It's self-evident. That's about all. Peace out.